The rain fell softly over Manhattan, washing the glass towers in silver streaks. Inside the 29th floor of the Harrington Global headquarters, everything smelled of power, polished wood, expensive cologne, and silent fear. At the head of the long conference table sat Victor Harrington. Billionaire. Tycoon. A man whose signature alone could change markets. He adjusted his cufflinks impatiently and glanced at his gold watch. "Where is he?" Victor snapped. The lawyers exchanged quick looks. One of them cleared his throat. "He should be here any minute, Mr. Harrington." Victor leaned back, irritated. "I don't like waiting, especially not for people like him." No one responded, because everyone in that room already knew what Victor meant. The man they were waiting for wasn't a CEO. Wasn't a financier. Wasn't even supposed to be important. He was just a single dad. 8 years earlier, Ethan Cole once believed in hard work. He believed that loyalty mattered. That talent would be recognized. That if you gave everything to a company, it would give something back. At 26, he joined Harrington Global as a junior analyst. Long hours, low pay, big dreams. That's where he met Lily. She worked in accounting, soft-spoken, kind, with tired eyes and a gentle smile. They fell in love quietly, the way exhausted people do. Late-night coffee, shared elevators, whispered plans. Then came marriage. Then came Emma. And then came the fall. Lily died during childbirth. Just like that. One moment, Ethan was a husband waiting in a hospital hallway. The next, he was a widower holding a newborn he didn't know how to raise. The company sent flowers. Victor Harrington sent an email. "Take a week off. Then we'll need you back." No condolences. No empathy. Just business. The breaking point. Ethan tried. God, how he tried. He worked days. Cared for Emma nights. Slept maybe 2 hours in between. But grief doesn't follow schedules. One morning, exhausted and late, he walked into Victor's office. "I need flexible hours," Ethan said quietly. "Just for a few months. My daughter." Victor didn't even look up. "Do you know how many people want your job?" He replied coldly. "This is a corporation, not a charity." That day, Ethan was fired. No severance. No apology. Just a box for his desk items and a security escort. As he left the building, holding baby Emma in his arms, rain soaking his cheap jacket, Ethan whispered something that no one heard. "One day, you'll regret this." The years no one saw. Life didn't get easier. Ethan worked anywhere he could, freelance consulting, night shifts, teaching finance at community colleges. He raised Emma alone, packed lunches, school pickups, homework at kitchen tables. He sold his car, moved into a small apartment, learned how to braid hair from YouTube videos. And slowly, quietly, something else happened. Ethan never stopped investing. Small amounts, smart decisions, long-term vision. He studied companies Victor ignored. Bought shares others laughed at. Built trust with people who had been burned by billionaires like Harrington. He didn't chase money. He waited for time to do its work. Present day. The conference room doors finally opened. Everyone turned. A man stepped inside, early 40s, plain dark suit, slightly worn shoes. His hair was neatly combed, but there were lines of exhaustion around his eyes. He carried no assistant, no arrogance, no noise, just a thin leather folder in his hand. Victor looked at him once, and smirked. "This is him," Victor said, voice dripping with contempt. "This is the man I'm supposed to sell my company shares to." Ethan met his eyes calmly. "Yes," he said. "That's me." Victor laughed. "You don't look like someone who can afford this deal." Ethan smiled faintly. "I've learned not to look like anything, Mr. Harrington." The lawyers stiffened. Something in Ethan's tone made the room feel smaller. The papers on the table. The lead attorney slid the documents forward. "All signatures are ready," he said. "Once completed, ownership transfers immediately." Victor grabbed his pen. "This is just a formality," he said smugly. "I'll still be the majority voice." Ethan didn't respond. He only looked at the papers, then at the name printed beside the final signature line. "New owner, E. Cole Holdings." Victor paused. His smile faded. "Wait," he said slowly. "What is this?" The attorney swallowed. "Sir, E. Cole Holdings now owns controlling interest." Victor's hand trembled. He looked up sharply at Ethan. "That's not possible," he whispered. "You were nothing. Ethan gently pulled out a photo from his wallet and placed it on the table. A little girl. Bright eyes. A crooked smile. My daughter, Ethan said softly. She taught me patience. Then he took the pen. And signed. The sound of ink on paper echoed like thunder. Victor Harrington stared at the signature. And in that moment, the billionaire realized, he'd lost everything. The room that once bent to his will now sat frozen in silence. The lawyers stared at their papers. The board members avoided eye contact. Even the air felt heavier. Victor slowly pushed his chair back. This is a mistake, he said, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow even to himself. Fix it. No one moved. The lead attorney adjusted his glasses. Sir, the acquisition is complete. The shares were transferred legally over the last 18 months. Today was only the final signature. Victor's voice dropped. 18 months. His eyes snapped back to Ethan. You planned this, he hissed. Ethan closed the folder calmly. I prepared, he said. There's a difference. The boardroom shift. Victor stood up, pacing like a trapped animal. You think owning paper means you own me? He shouted. I built this company. Ethan finally rose from his seat. Not aggressively. Not proudly. Just, firmly. You built it on fear, Ethan said. On people you thought were disposable. Victor slammed his hand on the table. I made you. You were nobody before me. Ethan looked at him, eyes steady. No, he replied quietly. You broke me. And when I rebuilt myself, I didn't include you. One of the board members cleared his throat. Mr. Harrington, he said nervously, as of this moment, Mr. Cole is the majority owner and acting chairman. Victor froze. What? You can't be serious. The board member swallowed. The vote was unanimous. Victor's world tilted. Unanimous. Men and women who once laughed at his jokes, who feared his temper, who depended on his approval, had already chosen their side. And it wasn't his. The private room. Minutes later, Victor found himself sitting across from Ethan in a smaller conference room. No audience. No lawyers. Just two men, and a past that refused to stay buried. Why? Victor asked finally, voice low. You could have destroyed me publicly. Why didn't you? Ethan leaned back. Because revenge is loud, he said. And I've lived my life quietly. Victor scoffed. You expect me to believe this is about morals? Ethan paused. Then he spoke the truth Victor didn't want to hear. This is about my daughter. Victor looked up sharply. What does a child have to do with business? Ethan's jaw tightened. Everything, he said. When Emma was born, I learned what responsibility actually means. He stood and walked to the window. There were nights I didn't eat so she could. Days I smiled while breaking inside. I learned to think long-term, to protect, to endure. He turned back. You taught me none of that. You only taught me what not to be. Victor felt something unfamiliar crawl into his chest. Fear. A father's promise. Ethan pulled out his phone and showed Victor a video. Emma, now 8 years old, sat at a kitchen table, coloring. Daddy, she said in the video, when I grow up, I want to be brave like you. Victor looked away. Turn that off. Ethan didn't. She doesn't know your name, Ethan continued calmly. She doesn't know you fired me. Or that you laughed when I begged for time. He lowered the phone. But she knows I keep my promises. Victor swallowed. So what now? He asked bitterly. You throw me out. Ruin me. Ethan shook his head. No, he said. I let you stay. Victor blinked. What? You'll remain on the board, Ethan said. No executive power. No intimidation. Just accountability. Victor laughed weakly. You think this is mercy? Ethan met his eyes. No, he said. This is education. The news breaks. Within hours, the headline exploded across financial media. Single dad quietly acquires Harrington Global, billionaire loses control. Phones rang non-stop. Stocks fluctuated. Analysts scrambled. Victor sat alone in his old office, now no longer his. The nameplate had already been removed. He stared at the empty desk, realizing something painful. For the first time, no one needed him. Meanwhile, at home, that evening, Ethan stood in his small kitchen, tying Emma's shoelaces. Daddy, she asked, did you have a good day? He smiled. Yes, he said. I fixed something that was broken. She hugged him tightly. That's my superhero. Ethan closed his eyes. This was the real victory. The office felt unfamiliar to Victor Harrington now. The same floor-to-ceiling windows. The same skyline, but no power. He stood alone, staring at the city he once believed belonged to him. For years, he had measured life in profits, acquisitions, and fear. And now, stripped of control, he realized how small his world had always been. A soft knock came at the door. "Come in," Victor said quietly. It was Ethan, not as an enemy, not as a conqueror, but as the man who now held the future in his hands. A conversation long overdue. "I reviewed the quarterly numbers," Ethan said, placing a folder on the desk. "They're strong. The company will survive." Victor laughed bitterly. "The company always survives. It's the people who don't." Ethan met his gaze. "That's why I'm here." Victor frowned. "To finish me?" Ethan shook his head. "To end something." He pulled out an old employee file and placed it between them. Victor recognized the name instantly. Ethan Cole. Inside were notes Victor had never bothered to read. Requests for parental leave. Medical documents. Performance reviews marked excellent. Victor's throat tightened. "You never looked at these, did you?" Ethan asked. Victor said nothing. "I used to wonder," Ethan continued, "if you were cruel, or just empty." That landed harder than any insult. The weight of regret. Victor sat down slowly. "I don't sleep anymore," he admitted. When the noise stopped, everything caught up. Ethan studied him. "For years, I imagined this moment," he said. "I thought I'd feel satisfaction." He paused. "But I don't." Victor looked up. "Then why do I feel like I've lost everything?" Ethan's voice softened. "Because you finally see what you never owned." Victor closed his eyes. "I don't have anyone," he whispered. "No family. No one waiting at home." Silence filled the room. Then Ethan said something Victor never expected. "I know what that feels like." The unexpected choice. Later that week, Ethan called an emergency board meeting. Victor sat at the far end of the table, expecting humiliation. Instead, Ethan stood and spoke calmly. "Victor Harrington founded this company," he said. "But he forgot something important. Leadership is responsibility, not dominance." The board listened carefully. "I'm stepping back from daily operations," Ethan continued. "I'll remain owner, but I want this company to be led by people who remember they work with humans, not numbers." Murmurs spread. "And Victor?" a board member asked. Ethan looked at him. "He will mentor our leadership ethics program," Ethan said. "Under supervision." Victor's head snapped up. "What? Why would you trust me with that?" Ethan answered without hesitation. "Because consequences teach better than punishment." Tears burned Victor's eyes. No one had ever given him a second chance. Emma. That evening, Ethan came home to Emma drawing at the table. "What are you making?" he asked. "A picture for someone sad," she replied. "Someone sad?" She nodded. "You told me sad people need kindness the most." Ethan's chest tightened. Weeks later, Victor sat in a community center, listening to Emma read a short story during a charity event Ethan sponsored. She stumbled over a word. Victor gently helped her. She smiled at him. "Thank you, sir." That simple sentence broke something inside Victor. Not fear, not pride, something softer. The final truth. Months passed. Harrington Global changed. Employee policies shifted. Parents went home earlier. People smiled more. One evening, Victor stood beside Ethan on the balcony overlooking the city. "You won," Victor said quietly. Ethan shook his head. "No," he replied. "I healed." Victor looked at him. "And me?" Ethan thought for a moment. "That depends," he said. "On who you choose to become when no one is afraid of you anymore." Victor nodded slowly. For the first time in his life, he wanted to be better. A father's legacy. That night, Ethan tucked Emma into bed. "Daddy," she asked sleepily, "are we rich?" Ethan smiled and kissed her forehead. "We have enough," he said. "And we have each other." She yawned. "Then we're the richest." Ethan turned off the light. As the city glowed outside, he understood the truth. Power fades. Money moves. But what you build in silence, that's what lasts.